Hello friends, how are you all doing today? I hope that you're all doing fantastically. As you may be able to tell by my voice, I've actually been rather under the weather lately, so I actually had to miss work for a week because I was sick, and I am on the upswing of it now, but I'm still not feeling fantastic, unfortunately, so this is going to be a pretty short video. The one that I actually wanted to do, I just wasn't able to get it ready. So I figured we would just have kind of a nice little chat about some things that I wish more publishers and authors as well would do when they were actually creating the physical editions of books. And these are just my personal preferences, so feel free to disagree with me. But these are just things that I've noticed that I prefer to see in or on a book when I get it. That either just make things easier that I just enjoy, I think is like a nice touch. So we're just going to go through a couple of those today. The first one is probably one that I think a lot of people would agree with, and that is the inclusion of a map. So I know a lot of books, especially fantasy books, do include maps, and they just make me so happy when I see them because it does really help you to visualize the journey that characters are going on and where they're traveling, how far they have to go. It really is just, it gives it this sense of realism to the story, this sense of immersion and this ability for the reader to actually follow along with the journey. And it can also help with confusion because sometimes, for those of us who are directionally challenged, I'm very good at finding my way around somewhere that I've been before just by being able to visually see it. But actually having directions and road names confuses me. And so being able to actually look at a map can help to make sure that I'm not getting confused as to where they've been, like along the route and kind of like how it goes. Because when you're like, oh, well, they turned here and then they went there, and then it can just get to be a bit much, especially if they're like traveling back and forth between places. I just love to see a map, and I feel like if you are going to include any sort of journey in a fictional place, a map is really helpful for the readers. It's also helpful for things that are taking place in the real world, like fictional stories in the real world, because, you know, most people have not traveled everywhere in the world, and so having a map to help you, again, orient yourself in the story can be very, very nice. Also, maps of like buildings or like architecture if it's taking place in a very large structure. For example, I just got a book, which you guys will see in my April book haul, that has the map of a ship because the different rooms, then this way they're set up on the ship, I'm assuming is going to be relevant to the story, and I think that's really, really cool. So I love a good map. I do know that, you know, unless you're an artist or a cartographer yourself as a writer, you would then have to hire somebody, so there is cost involved with that. But I do think that it's helpful, and it's like J.R.R. Tolkien said, I think it was in one of his letters, but it may have been in an interview because I've just read so much by him, but I remember one quote that he said about how you should create the map either as you're going or before you're going, like right to the map, because otherwise you will never make the map afterwards, was something that he was saying. And it's along the lines of like, it can help the writers to stay oriented too, so that they're not getting confused and mixing up locations and distances and things like that. So that's just something that I personally like, and I have seen a lot of other people say, you know, like get excited when they see maps in books. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I want to talk about like the cover, so the outside of a book. So these are just a couple of things that, again, are just personal preferences of mine, but when a book is part of a series, I really like to see the series name somewhere on the cover. So either on the spine or on the front cover, or the back cover, just somewhere that I can see it so that I can make sure that, first of all, that I know that it's in a series, because I can't tell you how many times I've bought a book, and I've just, every time I get a new book, I've started doing research to make sure, because I'll get home and I'll go to put it in my Notion page, and I'll like look it up and find out that it's part of a series that I had no clue. So this has resulted in me getting a couple of books that are like not the first book in a series, which is really frustrating. So it's just a simple thing just to put on there. And I know that some, authors do it. I do see it on some books, like The Bloodsworn by John Gwynne has it. Books of the Usurper has it. Manga always has it because they don't typically have titles for individual volumes, so that's helpful. And light novels as well. And like the Dreamer trilogy by Maggie Stiefvater. I'm just like listing some that I can see from where I'm sitting. The Dragon Age books all have Dragon Age on there, which is again really nice. But it's just a little touch that, to me personally, it makes my life as the reader easier in keeping track of which books are part of series, and knowing what I'm getting into when I purchase a book. And along that same note, and this one is not as important to me, but I do still like it, is having the number somewhere. Again, if you don't want it on the spine, it can just be on the back of the book. On the back cover is fine. Or even just like inside on the title page, but like having like a book 1 or book 2, or just letting me know where in the series it falls. It can also be really helpful because especially if you're getting into a backlist series like that is already finished or already has a lot of books out, it just saves you from having to do that research and figure out what order that they go in. But the number is not as important to me as just like the name of the series is helpful. Also, not just because it lets me know that it's in a series, but it lets me know what the series is called, because sometimes you can't find the name of the series anywhere on or in the book, and you have to actually go look it up, and you're like, well, there was no way I could have figured that out. So it would just save a lot of confusion. I just think it's a really nice thing to put on there for the reader's sake. And again, feel free to disagree with me if you would like, but that's just something personally that I like to see on books. Another thing that I like, and this is kind of silly, and it's not something that would ever turns me off if I don't see it. This is just something that I like. I think it's cute and a nice little touch, and that's like chapter titles. So I feel like they're so popular in like middle grade books and like children's books. At least they were when I was a kid, and I just thought it was nice. It gives you like a sense of what the chapter is going to be about. And it like gets your brain working and like you guessing as to what's gonna happen. Or it gets you really excited, if it mentions something like a holiday or a previous character that you've met or something, you're like, oh, like I'm so excited to read this. So that it's just like a silly little thing that I like chapter titles. I just think that they're fun. And then another thing on the cover, it bothers me when, and again, this is just me personally, and it doesn't ever make me like not want to read a book. It's just like a personal preference kind of deal. But it bothers me when the author's name is bigger than the title. And I understand why publishers do this. It's all about trying to drum up interest in the book because maybe the author is really popular or has other more well-known books, and you're like, hey, this is by the same person, like you're gonna want to read this. I get it. But it just, to me, doesn't look as good as having the title bigger, because I feel like the emphasis should be on the title rather than the author. And also, if the book is titled someone's name, like if the title of a book is somebody's name and the author's name is bigger, it makes it just a smidge confusing as to what the title of the book is. If it's an author you've personally never heard of before, then naturally our brains, the way graphic design works and stuff, we look at the bigger font first, or at least we tend to. And so, sometimes you may think like, oh, well, that's the title of the book, and then this is the author, and really it's the other way around. So again, that's just a personal preference thing, but I do prefer for the title to be bigger, the biggest font on there. Another thing that I love to see on books is wraparound cover art. So again, you can have beautiful cover art that's just on the front. But wraparound cover art just makes my heart so happy, being able to see the beautiful artwork like on a much bigger scale. It just looks so nice, I think. And I get it if you want to have a break where the spine goes so that the spine is different, but then still continue the cover art on the back. Like, that's perfectly fine with me, because I know that, you know, sometimes you do want to highlight certain things on the spine or have like a smaller image from the cover there of like a particular character or a location or item or something of the sort. So I do get that, and that's perfectly fine. But having the art on the front and the back, it makes it look so pretty. And it just highlights the cover artist's work. I don't know. I really like that. Um, I just think it looks really nice when you're looking at it, and I love art, so it just makes me happy to see it there. And another thing which I feel like more people are investing in is having something on the naked hardcover. So when you have a hardcover book and you take the dust jacket off, oftentimes the book is blank underneath, and that's perfectly fine. You know, a nice hardcover book, they look elegant, they look pretty, and just have, you know, the text on the spine letting you know what the book is and who the author is. But having something on the naked hardcover, it like adds this little touch of whimsy, and it's just almost like a magical little surprise when you take the cover off. And it, again, I know that it's a very superficial little thing, but those little details are just so lovely to see. And again, I feel like more people are doing this and investing in this, and I do know that it does take more money to do that, so I completely understand why people don't, typically, unless it's like a special edition. But there have been more that I've seen that have like a symbol or, you know, something embossed into the front cover, or like a little bit of foiling or something. I just think it looks really nice. And it's just, I don't take my dust jackets off books, but I know that some people do. They prefer not to have the dust jacket, which I don't really get, but you know, to each their own preferences. And having that little detail on there, it just like makes the naked book look so pretty and so elegant, and just like having that little extra thing on there, I guess, I don't know, it's just nice. That's the thing with all of these things I'm bringing up. None of them are necessary. They're just nice, either aesthetically or just because they are helpful for eliminating confusion on the part of the reader, which I appreciate as a reader. But yeah, they're just nice. They're just nice to see. And sometimes, you know, I feel like our society, I'm talking America because that is where I live, tends to value functionality over form in a lot of aspects. And so having those extra little unnecessary details that are just there for the aesthetic purposes to look pretty, or they're just to add that extra little touch just to help the reader along, I just appreciate those things. And I'm sure that some of you do as well. So, you know, hopefully some of you are agreeing with me and not just sitting here like, what is she talking about? I have no idea. And then another thing, and this one actually does kind of bother me a little bit, but consistency. So I know that it's like a big, obvious change when the design of a cover gets changed. For example, if we look at the Del Rey mass market paperback editions of the Temporary series by Naomi Novik, we have a number of different cover art designs. So this is what the first 4 books, they kind of follow this design. So we have like a dragon with what looks to be some sort of like mirror with a place inside of it, or an image inside of it. But then with book 5, it changes, just completely changes. Now we have like a background scene with a very different dragon stylistically holding the name of the series. So complete change. Then book 6, once again, completely different. Then we have book 7. Oh, again, not the same at all. Now we did return to like the little mirror, but the other aspects of the design are once again just completely new. Then we go back to this, and then I'm sorry, I got those backwards. I dropped them and got them out of order. This is book 7, book 8, and book 9. So for book 6, it's like we flip-flop. So we had book 4 and 5, and then we go back to the original for book 6, back to this for book 7, and then 2 completely different designs for books 8 and 9. I just don't understand why. And it's not that I dislike any of those covers. They're all pretty. I just don't understand the inconsistency. So I know that that's like an obvious thing that does bother people. Like I've heard Patrick Leo, for example, talking about changing cover artists and stuff, and I've heard other booktubers and other people just in my personal life talking about like, why is this cover different when it's the same edition of in the series? It's just a different book and they've changed the cover, and I don't personally understand. But so I know that that is an obvious inconsistency. And then also, this one doesn't happen usually, but it can. Sometimes the publisher will change, and so the sizing of the book will also change, like the sizing of the books in the series. Now again, that one doesn't happen very often, but I have seen it, which is frustrating. But I do understand that that is typically just due to the change in publisher, which is probably out of the author's control or due to some sort of contractual issue, which, you know, I get that. That's not intentional. But then there are other things. And maybe I'm the only one who notices them. But, for example, the designs on the spine. It bothers me when you have one book that has, like, the author's name at the top and then the title. And then another book where it has the title and the author's name under it. Why? Why couldn't you just make it the same? I don't understand. And that's just like a little silly thing, but I like consistency. I like for them to look like they go together. And it's not that I want the art to be like exactly the same, or that I mind the spines being different colors. Like I think the Inheritance Cycle books right here, I think that they look beautiful. But you can, you know, they're all different color spines, but the design and the setup, the way the font is, the way these spines are put, like, you know, arranged, is consistent, and it looks really nice. So I'm not trying to say like the books have to be identical. That's not at all what I mean. But just, you know, I do like the consistency. I wish more people thought of that, I guess, in their books. And again, that's not like a common thing, but I do see it. And it frustrates me. Maybe it's because I'm OCD, and so other people are like, again, oh, that's not a big deal, it doesn't bother me, but it does bother me personally. And this is my list, so I can say what I want, I guess. And then the last thing that I wish that we saw more in books is illustrations. Now again, I know that this is not something that everyone can invest their money in, because unless you can draw yourself, in which case you still have to invest time, but unless you are an artist yourself, you do have to hire someone to illustrate for you. And I understand that that is a cost that not everyone is willing to pay. But for those who are, I think illustrations really elevate the reading experience, just having them in there. And I don't necessarily mean that you have to have full page illustrations with character art and all that. You don't have to do all of that. Are those nice? Absolutely. Is having colored illustrations nice? Absolutely. But, you know, it's not necessary. But even just having like little touches, like little chapter illustrations, like at the chapter heading, or like little like break illustrations, or, you know, I just think those things are, again, they're just nice. They add this like extra element to the book. They make it pretty to look at while you're reading it. And even just like those designs for different sections where they have like certain pages grayed out, or they've got like, you know, like vines wrapping around the page or something like that. It's just, it makes it, like, it takes it up a level, I feel like, as far as just allowing the reader to have something beautiful to look at. And again, that I understand that is not at all required for me to enjoy a book, and having that is not going to make me enjoy the content of the book anymore, and not having it is not going to make me enjoy the content of the book any less. This is just something that I like to see in books. It's just nice. I feel like that's like the theme of this video, just things that are nice to see in books. Oh, and another one, I think I said that one was the last one, I don't know, but another one is a glossary or an index, especially for books that have other languages in them. So this could be for like a real world language that you are incorporating into the speech of the characters, because maybe they're bilingual, or maybe it takes place in another world, and so or another world, in another place where they do speak another language, so you're trying to incorporate some of that vocabulary. Having a glossary of terms and definitions, like translations, is really helpful, because otherwise I'm sitting there looking stuff up on Google Translate. So that's just a really nice thing, again, to just help convenience the reader. And then if you are writing a fictional language, right, like pulling a Tolkien and creating a language, please give me a glossary. Please translate it, because I can't, right? Like, I can't even Google Translate that. And so it is just really, really nice. I am the person that I see a word and I'm flipping to the back to see what the definition of it is. And so again, I know I already mentioned the Inheritance Cycle, but Christopher Paolini does that. There is like a glossary in the back with translations, which is like chef's kiss, beautiful, wonderful. I love it. Tolkien as well gives you those glossaries, and so stuff like that is nice. I like them because, again, it makes it easier for me. I feel honestly, personally, like I am missing out on something if there's a word or a phrase said, even if it's just a throwaway thing, and I don't have to understand it to understand the context of the story, or within what's happening, I can get a sense of like the gist of what it means. I still feel personally like I'm missing something if I can't actually translate it and understand it. So it's just nice. Again, that one is probably like the biggest one on this list for me, as far as just things that like I get frustrated if it's not there. The other ones, like, yeah, I like to see these things, or I like it to be a certain way, but this one, it actually like frustrates me a little bit if there's not a glossary, because again, if it's a real language, I can look it up, but if it's not, I feel like I don't know what to do at that point. I'm like, oh, I'm like flipping to the back and I'm like, oh, there's nothing there. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this. So again, that's just me personally. Feel free to disagree. Some of you may not care about stuff like that. You're like, as long as I can understand what's happening, I'm okay. But I'm a detail-oriented person, so I like to have all of the details. I like to know all of the things. But yeah, so this was a very like chatty video. I didn't really plan this out at all, because like I said, I've been sick for like a week and it's been miserable. I literally ran a fever for like 5 days. 4 or 5 days. And I'm still not feeling fantastic. I'm still not feeling really up to par. But hopefully it was enjoyable. Hopefully, you guys, let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with me on any of these, or if there's anything that you really like to see in books, or things that frustrate you if they're done a certain way or not there. And again, I'm just talking like not the content of the story, just the physical book itself. So yeah, it was just a very little chatty video. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope that you guys had fun watching it. It was maybe a nice little break during your day. If you would like to leave an emoji in the comments, maybe leave a heart, your favorite color heart, or your favorite of the heart patterns. But I hope that you are all having a wonderful day or night wherever you are, that you are feeling much better than I am at the moment. And I'm so thankful that you are here. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!